What's going on, everybody? Randy here, Nerds Templar. Let me switch some screens around here for a second. Bringing you Beyond Lumina, live, episode 7 out of 10 that are posted currently. Yeah, that's about a third, if you're wondering, of the story of the first book, if you will. The Book of Aezic, indeed, is what it is called. Every chapter is an episode. Every chapter and episode is about 10 pages long. Probably about 25 minutes of audio adventure. And yeah, episode 7, Sanctuary, today. And what you heard there was the soundscape of last episode, I guess, last half a week's episode, which was episode 6, Wanted. The name of the song, though, is Flight. Relatedly. So yeah, here we go. Beforehand, though, I am going to do a quick spoilers, what was happening previously on Beyond Lumina. So Lieutenant Aezic Zin, Lieutenant of the Free World Alliance, goes home to the world of Ravina, recently ravaged by other major power known as the Royal Ascendancy. While they're looking for his family, meets one Sergeant Bala Rees of the Free World Alliance, who tries to help him. Aezic having headaches, she meets him because she and her commander are concerned about his health and being alone with his obvious headache issues. Then, once having no luck finding his family, through means of Bala and her commander, Master Sergeant Ty Ravim, he then goes off on his own, meets Zario, Launer, and his crew posing as Ravinian soldiers, goes to their fake commander, posing as a Ravinian captain, goes off on some missions with them, ends up really doing not much of anything useful, again, in terms of finding his family, except arriving on an asteroid outpost just outside of Ravina, his home, in the system of Lumina there, the star system. Then gets turned on by Zario and crew, who then in turn gets turned on by their captain, their commander, or fake commander, named Captain Otteron, back on Ravina. And the Ascendancy comes after them. They all escape together. That is Aezic, Zario, and his crew. Bala still back on Ravina. But then once Aezic and the rest escape, they go off. They are able to take the Ascendancy ship that comes to basically take them out and make sure the job is done on the asteroid. They steal that. They're able to get away. They go to an independent world known as Ob, where they're able to haggle, you could say, with one of the people that came to greet the person that came to greet them, not so happily. But then they get a different ship. They ditch the Ascendancy ship. They find some information, in fact, about the exiled actual Ravinian soldiers, potentially, there's some kind of Ravinian signal out there that Aezic was able to determine was a Ravinian signal that was found on the Ravinian ship, and of course nobody else knew what it was, not being Ravinian themselves. So then Aezic goes to the big planet of Sotama in the Free World Alliance. He's trying to again find more information. While there, however, Vala ends up finding she's sent on a mission by Ty Ravim, her commander, to track Aezic, because they are suspecting treason from him, the Alliance themselves. And so Vala sent to track him, and while they're with Aezic, in fact, meeting him a little surprisingly, coming out of the embassy, if you will, or whatever you want to call it, the barracks, the main headquarters of the military of the Free World Alliance, there on Sotama, one of their main planets, basically known as Bright City, one major, massive city of a planet, pretty much like you can think like a Coruscant, but without all the layers, something like that, perhaps, that's always bright all the time. While they're together, of course, Aezic then ditches Zario and his crew and the Obian ship. Zario and the crew, though, remain though the rest of the crew would like to go find their crew member Bohawk, who was lost at the asteroid because he was on the ship whenever it was attacked. He was manning the ship when everyone else was out, getting ready to, and then preparing it for then leaving. But then it was attacked, and they have no idea was his whereabouts. The rest wanted to go back. Zario said, and was obviously right, that they couldn't because they were being, especially then when they all found out that Aezic was wanted by the Free World Alliance. Then Zario and the rest of the crew, well, Zario for sure knew that they weren't going to be safe going back to Ravina. And so Aezic then tries to get away from Vala in last week's episode. Vala tells him that she would like to help him. She trusts him that he isn't actually a traitor and would and she would like to help clear his name. And so they attempt to then get off planet through private means of Vala's, and are almost successful, but then found by the Free World Alliance. Their ship is disabled, the one they were trying to take out off planet. But then luckily, all hope was lost. Zario and crew came flying into the rescue in the rickety Avian ship, picked them all up. Picked, I guess, just Aezic and Vala up. The rest were on the ship already, and they made their way off. And unfortunately, on their way out, trying to escape Sotama local space, they were shot down by one of the defense towers from the ground. Not shot down, but their ship disabled again. The Avian ship disabled enough that they were going to basically float in space until they lost a means of life support on ship. And so they were all pretty much despairing, and until they just happened to, in the middle of nowhere, run into an even more rickety looking ship, and who then contacted them, told them that they were sounded kind enough, told them they were from a world known as Costia, which is from the Ascendancy, the Royal Ascendancy, the bad place, if you will, the bad of the three powers. And but they trusted them enough and figured they weren't going to have any other way out. So they took the invitation to have their ship towed and to come on board and go to their home of Costia. And both were surprised by the other's appearance, as the Costians, of course, didn't exactly realize that they were bringing aboard Free World Alliance members, since they were on just an independent planet's ship. And the Aezic and the rest didn't expect some interesting looking raggedy folks in long brown robes and in other brown, you could say peasant-like outfits. Anyway, that was the very end of episode 6, where they were then on their way with the Costians to their home of Costia. And so that is where we pick up right now. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you on the other end. Beyond Lumina, Episode 7, Sanctuary.
The time for all things to be restored draws near. The Chosen One approaches. Now fulfill your duties.
How am I to find the Chosen One? And how can we be restored at a time like this?
Trust.
Upon boarding, Aezic and what had become his temporary crew of Vala, along with Zario and the others, examined their savior's ship. "Are you sure these guys aren't from an independent world?" Villainy asked. "This thing is worse than the one from Ob." This ship looked to be more like multiple ships stitched together, as though it had all been salvaged and made into one new vessel. "It's better at the moment," Aezic replied, "since it's actually running." He turned to the man who seemed to be the ship's commander. We're grateful for your help. Fodder, was it? My name is Aezic Zin. And he went on to introduce the rest of the group. They had been brought to a small room, but it was probably the only common area on the ship, just large enough to hold Aezic, his crew, and the old hooded man. The rest of the small crew had gone back to the bridge. Good to meet you all, and Fodder is more of a title. Klaus is my name, but you can call me what you like, the man said jovially. And we are happy to help, though I'm sure someone else would have come around before too long to help you out. You're near an active Alliance world, after all. That's why we came out here to salvage. There is a lot of traffic around Sotama, and not all of the pilots leaving its space are suitable to fly when they do. He was, of course, referring to the overindulgent lives of Sotama citizens. That is what we thought you were at first on that ship. We were surprised to find you were part of the Alliance military. I'm not so sure, Aezic replied. And I don't know if we would have had rescuers as well-meaning as yourselves. Like I said, it's a long story, but the Alliance is the one that wrecked our ship. We could use some sanctuary for the time being, but as an Alliance officer, I don't want to be noticed among your people and bring you trouble. You shouldn't have to worry about that, Fodderglass answered. We are and have been a part of the Ascendancy for a very long time, but they have very little real presence in Kostia. They leave us to our own business. Aezic had to admit to himself he knew next to nothing about Kostia, other than its alignment. Well, in that case, if you'd have us, we would be even more in your debt if we could rest on Kostia for a little while. Of course, Klaus said. Like I mentioned, we don't have much, but what we do have is yours while you're with us. It won't be too long before we're back on Kostia, and we should be able to get your ship repaired for you rather quickly. We have many fine mechanics. The only other thing Aezic knew about the planet was its physical makeup and location in Lumina's system. It was, in fact, one of the planets closest to Lumina, and was, relative to most of the other planets, a small, extremely hot, uninhabitable rock. Evidently, at some point it had become inhabited, and its people lived within Kostia's surface, where they were able to more easily regulate a synthetic and livable atmosphere. Zaryo and his crew were not too interested in talking to Fodderglass and the rest just yet, and Vala was still coming out of shock. Eventually, Aezic's desire for gathering information won out, and he asked Klaus, so why exactly does the Ascendancy not have much of a presence on Kostia? Well, as I said, Fodderglass started, we have been a part of the Ascendancy for a very long time, perhaps since near its inception ages ago. According to our history, our people used to be much more prominent in the Ascendancy. We were known as the People of the Voice, a religious sect you might say. Whether from our people's influence or something else, the Ascendancy began to find fault with us, and we were persecuted for a time, until eventually one of our leaders finally vowed that we would keep silent and keep our influence within our own world, or else bring the wrath of the Ascendancy upon us once more. Fodderglass sighed deeply, then continued. The things we hold to be true are quite different from what is now held throughout the system. The Ascendancy would quickly discover if we began to spread our message again, and they would destroy us. So they have no need to fear, because they know we will comply. We are also a sore spot now for the Ascendancy, and get little to no aid, which we greatly need, leading to many of our people becoming salvagers to stay alive. But there is really no escape from the Ascendancy for us, as we are located in such a position that there is always a prominent Ascendancy planet not far away. We are essentially trapped, and so for this reason too, they have no need to closely monitor us. I'm sorry to hear all of that. I can't imagine what it would be like living under the rule of the Ascendancy, Aezic said. Although this may be extremely lucky for us, no Ascendancy or Alliance, or Federation for that matter, he thought. We might actually be safe for a moment. He wasn't so sure about these people, though, and continued pondering what Fodderglass had said as they neared Kostia. It sounds like some kind of cult planet, Aezic thought. I hope we aren't getting mixed up in anything too dangerous or strange. Aezic had heard stories of the time before the space age on Ravina, when people used to believe in some rather astounding things, large people in the sky or beings that knew your every thought or somehow controlled your life. That had all been proven false once their people began discovering more about the universe, and especially after they met other life and joined the New World Alliance, who also had no conception of such things. It's all pre-civilized nonsense, he thought again. But maybe what this man meant is that they just live by some certain ethical code. Perhaps there aren't any of those crazy beliefs attached. They're out here traversing Lumina after all. There's no way they could believe in some kind of big people in the sky. Autoglass left the crew to themselves after a while once they were settled in and Aezic and Bala had changes of clothes. Before leaving, he asked if anyone needed to use the transmitter to contact anyone, but no one took him up on the offer. Aezic was still watching Vala carefully. Like I said, Valen started after Klaus was gone. I really don't know about this guy. We should leave as soon as we can. You're worried about a few weirdos in robes? Zario laughed. I doubt they can be that dangerous, although the place certainly doesn't sound like any kind of attraction. Aezic realized he was now probably stuck with this bunch, at least for the foreseeable future. Maybe they'll actually be able to help, he thought. Now finally having a moment to relax, he thought about the strange Ravinian code that the Ascendancy had on their ship. A code that wasn't strange to him. It's a muster code. Could it be a trap? Is that the reason all the Ravinian soldiers are gone? It was hard to ponder for long about one particular thing when there were so many questions needing to be answered, on top of which he still had short, crippling headaches. If we want to clear your name, Vala added, I would agree. I don't think we will be able to accomplish much on Castia, no matter how safe it is for us. Somehow you'll have to get support from one of the major powers in order to access the resources you need. She was right, of course. There was no way any independent world, or one near it like Castia, would have any of the tools Aezic would need to start figuring out what was going on. But he couldn't figure out where to start anyway. It seemed like a monumental task just to piece together all the things currently happening. Really, all I have to go on right now is this signal, he thought. There certainly has to be something there. The question is whether it's friendly or not. But I don't think I have a choice. I need to find out. So he decided that once the ship was repaired, that's where he would go. Like I said before, Aezic said to the others, I'm grateful for your help back on Sotama. We wouldn't have made it out alive outside of Alliance custody. But I need to go to the source of the signal we found on the Ascendancy ship. It's my best bet at finding something out at this point. I have no idea what I will find there. It could be a trap. So I don't expect any of you to come with me. In fact, this is where we should probably part ways, for your own good. Vala didn't hesitate to answer. I'm still coming with you. You can't do this all on your own. You will at the very least need some help getting there. And I think Filini has grown pretty attached to that hunk of junk being towed behind us, Zario added. Filini shot him an irritated glance. Besides, it's pretty clear now you're in the middle of something big, and I doubt the powers that be won't let us walk away from this, not after being a part of it. Otterglass's voice came over the intercom. My friends, we will be docking on Castia shortly. Don't mind the turbulence as we near Lumina. The sky was filled all rotation with transport ships arriving both on Tan and Sor, sitting between the two worlds, waiting for their turn to land. The population of Metezkar was all but annihilated, but it was a very large planet, and Tan and Sor were not quite so large, so that the amount of refugees to the two worlds ended up being notable. The private watched the familiar space shared between the two planets from his post, a view that never changed as Tan and Sor were tidally locked to each other, so that the same sides of both worlds always faced one another. He had been busy scanning and keeping tabs of the incoming ships and their passengers. From his guard post, he didn't interact with any of the refugees, but he could see even from a distance the shock and terror residing on the faces of nearly every one of the people who onboarded the transports. They probably know as much as we do about what happened. And they didn't know anything. They had heard about a similar attack several rotations ago on Ravina, but the destruction there was not nearly as bad as on Metezkar, a world now inhabitable. The best guess of the Tansorian Federation's leaders was that it was targeted due to it being the main planet of food production for the Federation. The economy of the third major power was going to change drastically, and there was even a possibility of shortages, something unheard of since the Federation was formed. The Free World Alliance had also been moving a lot of military ships to their border worlds with the Federation, a possible act of aggression, though they continue to claim that it was for defense after the Federation supposedly destroyed one of their warships. The Private thought that was absurd, unless the Alliance had attacked first, and in that case they would still be the aggressors. "Private Boss, what are you doing over there?" a voice came from somewhere nearby. "Here, sir," the Private replied. "Just thinking, waiting for the next transport." "Yes, I can see your eyes glazed over from here," his commander derided him. "A little less thinking and a little more watching. The next transport's on its way." "Yes, sir," the Private said. "Sorry, sir." First impressions of Kostia left a lot to be desired. The ship entered an unseemly hangar with more ships of various shapes and sizes, all patched together from multiple other vessels. And just as on the ship, both men and women in hooded robes worked around the hangar. There were others who wore normal clothing, though they looked rather tattered. The people also looked rather frightened at the sight of Aezic and the others. "We don't get many visitors," Fodderglass said when he saw the group's concerned glances, "especially ones so well armed." "We don't want to scare your people," Aezic replied. "If I can keep my pistol, we will turn over the rest of our weapons while we're here, as long as we can get them back if and when they're needed." "I'm sure that would relieve a lot of their worry, and build some trust between you," Glaus said. "We are quite resilient, but there is much fear among our people, and always has been since the Ascendancy nearly destroyed us all." "My people recently suffered a similar fate at their hands," Aezic mentioned, "so I kind of know how they're feeling, and I don't blame them. We would be happy to do what we can to make our stay easier on them, and we won't be here long." While most were reluctant to hand over their weapons, Balanth objected the most. "I'll wait on the ship," he finally said, and walked back. "I will too," Mecca said and followed him. She was still not happy with Zario, and she didn't like Aezic very much, or Vala. Argyle, of course, went with her. "Sorry about them," Aezic apologized to Glaus after they continued on. "It's been a long journey." "It's quite all right," Fodderglass replied. "I don't expect you to abide by every single custom we hold while you're here. Lumina is a big system after all. As long as you respect my people, you are welcome here, and I don't see that being a problem. Come this way. I will take you to our capital, Omnis, named after the great architect of our world." Oh no, Aezic thought. They do believe in some big person in the sky. Glaus took Aezic, Vala, Zario, Filini, and Usion to a nearby grav car, and took off down the wide tunnel. "Due to our proximity to Lumina, our entire world is underground and sustained by a synthetic atmosphere," Fodderglass lectured as they drove to the capital. "It's all tunnels. Some of them are natural, but most we made ourselves and connected into a network that spans the globe." "You're certainly people of ingenuity," Aezic replied, "with this tunnel network and the way you can refurbish ships. Where'd you come across such knowledge in a place like this?" "While we may be its most despised members," Glaus said, "we are still part of the Ascendancy, and have received some of their knowledge, thankfully enough to help us survive here without their help." In a short time they reached Omnis, the capital city. The crew was actually taken aback by its beauty. It was simple, but the entire city was hewn from the rocky ground of Kostia. It reminded Aezic of his home on Ravina. The city was laid out in a very precise way, with a few main tunnels that led out to other places. At one end of the city, what Aezic considered some kind of city center, was a massive building ornately carved into the side of the wall. "What on Lumina is that?" Zario murmured in admiration. "Probably some religious building," Aezic thought. "That is our destination," Glaus replied. It is the Grand Temple of Omnis, and also my home. You live there? Zario asked in astonishment. Wow, you must rank pretty high around here, eh, old man? Well, not exactly, Glaus chuckled. I live there with others like me, as we are the primary stewards of Omnis here on Costia, really in all Lumina. We are called the people of the voice because those who align their will to the will of the One can hear the voice of Omnis and heed his call. You see, it is due to our belief in Omnis that the Ascendancy banished us and essentially imprisoned us here. If they heard the name Omnis uttered outside of Costia, they would know we didn't keep to the command, and they would return to wreak havoc. In any case, the temple is where me and others like me, who are devoted to serving Omnis, rest our heads and have the occasional meal. But other than that, it is the holy place of our people, and also the place where I and the other devotees do most of our work. While everyone here believes in Omnis, the devotees are the ones who voluntarily take up this servant position. You can spot us by the hoods and robes. It must get pretty crazy with all those people in there, Lucian wondered. Aside from those coming to offer sacrifice, there are only the devotees inside, and we do not have families, as we all make a sort of life bond to serve the One himself. The One? Omnis? Sacrifice? Aezic was beginning to wonder if it was a good decision to come here. They were heading for the main place of sacrifice, and for all he knew, they were the victims. Sacrifice? Aezic asked Father Glaus. Oh, I'm sorry, Glaus replied with a laugh. Nothing like on Redrinion back in the day. Just sacrifices of their time or, even better, a sacrifice of their desires and will to that of the One, who they know desires the best for them. I suppose that's reassuring, Aezic thought. They left the grav car and made their way into the temple, which was indescribably large once they got up close to it. The cave containing the capital of Omnis was massive in itself, and the temple rose nearly to the top of it. After a grand rock-hewn entryway, as all things were, there was an enormous room spanning almost as far as the crew could see. In the center was a huge, ornate statue depicting something that the crew couldn't describe. Other statues and beautiful wall-carved pictures circled the outside of the sanctuary. There were people all over the place, some next to statues, some walking through, many lost in thought. Some spotted the newcomers that were clearly not from around there, and were startled like those at the hangar. The people near the entryway quickened their pace to get away from them. I apologize again for them. They're really just not used to Outlanders, Father Glaus said quietly. This is the main sanctuary. He made an arcing motion with his arm. It's the primary part of the temple for the public, though there are some smaller sanctuaries around as well. The women of the Order live in the western wing, while we live in the eastern. Come, we will get you something to eat. The group followed Glaus to the right and through a doorway leading to a long, rocky hallway, but Vala was still standing in the main sanctuary, staring at the large statue in the center. Vala, what are you doing? Aezic said, which seemed to come out much louder than he intended. Many of the people stared at the group again. I'll be right there, Vala replied. Just give me a minute. She'll be fine here, Glaus reassured them. Come along, we won't be far away. They started down the hallway, which was strewn with rooms on both sides. They didn't go too far before turning into one of them. Here's one of our dining areas. Someone will be by in a moment with some fresh meals. That's what I call service, Lucian said, quite famished at this point. One of the many ways we are able to serve one another here, Glaus answered. We all have jobs, be it here at the temple or out somewhere around Costia. There are other temples around the world for people to have easier access, but all of the devotees call this their permanent home. Father, who are these Outlanders? A voice came from outside the dining room. And why have you brought them into the living quarters? Father Blem, Father Glaus said with a forced smile. They're just a small group of travelers who had some problems out in deep space, and we happened upon them. I thought I would get them a meal since we've been out there for a while. Yes, Father Blem said, unamused. And I suppose that's why you barely brought anything back again. That fuel is precious, you know, and not to be used to make your ship a taxi, much less to bring people back here. What if Drop would find out? Drop doesn't care what happens around here, Glaus replied. And they won't be here long. They just need their ship repaired. Blem scowled. I am taking this to Avo, mark my words. Then he left. Just after, a woman entered the room. She too wore a hooded robe, but the hood was down. Oh, hello, she said, surprised by the crew, just as all the other Castians. You brought visitors, Fodder. Well, here are 5 dishes for you. Thank you, Sutter. And make that 6, please, Glaus said. One is still out in the sanctuary. Of course, here you are. She placed 6 plates around the table. The food did not look appetizing at all. It was some kind of brown muck. What is this? Zario asked, slopping it around with his utensil. It's called pash, Glaus said. I'm sorry, I know it's not as appetizing as what you're probably used to, but this is one of the few nutritious foods we have here. It's made from certain minerals found deep underground here. It may taste a little odd at first, but I assure you it's quite good for you. The group all reluctantly ate what they were given, and it did indeed have an odd taste. Villainy almost excused himself at one point, but was able to keep his composure. Aezic had more questions for Glaus now that they saw the temple, but he only asked one. So what is that statue in the sanctuary? That, Glaus started, as though he were summoning some grand speech, is the act of creation. It depicts the one and the sending of the architects, and of Omnis's subsequent creation of Lumina. So now there are 2 big people, Aezic thought, and they apparently made all of Lumina. Soon they finished, and Glaus stood once more. I can show you to some guest quarters, he said, although your other friend will have to stay in the women's wing. I suppose she's still out in the sanctuary. Vala gazed up at the massive statue, a large, ambiguous, and clouded figure sitting above, perhaps guiding a wide, swirling vortex, which itself sat atop many rings with spheres. But it wasn't the enormity or the beauty of the statue that had Vala's attention. In fact, it wasn't the statue at all. As soon as they had entered the sanctuary, Vala felt a shock run through her body, and she was terrified. Even more so than when she thought she was going to die aboard the Obian ship, with no idea why. She had intended to continue with the group, but something was telling her she must stay. She had to. Soon after the others left, something seemed to suck all of the sound out of the sanctuary, and it was noiseless. Then Vala heard. She wasn't sure if it was out loud or in her head.
Valadiris.
It was her native name.
Do not fear.
All right, there it is, episode 7 in the book. Well, in the books again, I guess, technically. It's already in the books once. There's as always, our background color wheel, because why not? Yeah, we'll just keep it like that. Why not? We don't need anything. We don't need anything else. stick my face right in the middle of the color wheel. All right. So yeah, that was. Oh yeah, I'm gonna have to move my face. Episode 7. We have 3 more left to do live, and as I said earlier, about 30 episodes going to be the whole thing, which means we have a third of it already posted. We're about a third of the way through live viewing to refresh, I guess, the content on the channel, because it was about a year ago when I posted these videos, these episodes. But then once we get through these 10, following again still with Wednesday and Saturday mornings, probably I'll be releasing 11 through 30, and yeah, we'll also, I'm not sure exactly how it works. I assume it's going to release the video whenever it's time, if I do like a scheduled video at like say 9 a.m. on Wednesdays and Saturday mornings Eastern, like we're doing here. If I schedule it and then also do like the live preview thing that you can do, like, or the live premiere thing, if that'll make, like, obviously you'll have then the video will go up on the videos part of my channel, right, where it should, along with all the other ones with no extra like live content. But then at the same time, I think it'll start a live stream, and then we'll be able to do hopefully a live stream viewing like we're doing now. At the same time, the regular video comes out as well. So it'll be like we'll have a simultaneous sort of thing. But then of course the live stream will go on VOD after that. So we'll have both at the same time. I think that's how it'll work. That's the plan. Yeah, so here we have, again, a little late now for the spoiler thing. I could bring it up again. I'm going to bring it up again just in case there's any random people that normally end up popping in to chat into the channel at the very end of my stream for whatever reason. That seems to happen a lot. I don't know why. But then as soon as I'm ending, I see a lot of traffic start popping in. So I'm going to try to avoid having that happen. Let's take off these other pictures. We don't need those. All right, so yeah, and again, we didn't do this in the beginning for the other spoiler part, so I'll do it now just to give everyone anyone a refresher on what the characters we've met so far look like. So of course, as I was showing during the video, I was trying to pop up the pictures, images, at least in the beginning, of some of these people as they were coming up, as they were being discussed. And again, as I mentioned last time, man, wouldn't it be so much better if we had like at least a couple voice actors, namely one female voice actor at least. I think once I get these 30 episodes out, also I have written the next third, so like 11 to 20 is basically ready to go, and then the rest 21 to 30 is outlined. So we're good. We're going to be good to just breeze through the next 20 episodes. But yeah, hopefully maybe we'll even have like a remastered version at some point after, you know, the whole thing's done, and we can get some, at least again, one, namely female voice actor. A couple would be cool. It'd be nice to have at least, you know, 2 females and 2 guys even to do the other male parts that aren't maybe the narrator. Like I could still narrate, I suppose. I don't necessarily need to, but I could. Anyway, Aezic, our main character, our other supporting cast main characters, you could say Vala and Zario. Those are the 3 pictures you were seeing quite a bit of, so you don't really need to linger on them too much. We heard from Vala a few times there, giving his 2 cents about what he thought about Photoglass and the Costians. I mentioned Bohawk earlier. I don't think he was mentioned at all in this episode, but Hawk was the one that was manning the ship as they went off on the asteroid outpost to betray Aezic before they were in turn betrayed. Back in episode 3 or so, Hawk lost on the ship. They don't know. They don't know. He's probably, for all they know, he's dead. But if he wasn't, then most likely he was picked up by either the Ravinians or the Alliance at this point. They don't know. But Filoni also talked about a couple times, the engineer, if you will, of the crew. Zario poking some fun at him at one point when trying to not trying to sound, I guess you could say, macho when he was at the same time trying to tell Aezic that they were going to hang around with him. So trying to make himself sound a little cooler by throwing Filoni under the bus, basically. Usian, Filoni also almost emptying his stomach at the sight of the posh there at the end that they had to eat on Costia. Usian, I believe he said a couple things. Mecha actually would be Mecha Launer. That would be Zario's younger sister, and Argyle. Those 2 then followed Valanth. Valanth didn't go with the rest of the crew when they reached Costia, because he wouldn't give up his weapon, which you see a decent rendition of there. Again, these are AI generated images. If you guys want to if you're an artist and you want to take any of these and run with them, man, be my guest. if you watch episode 1 to I believe 3, at the end of those I give my own terrible artwork that I made at the time, which was just like very quickly like like I don't even know what you would call it, like scribble drawn with colored pencils. So it's, yeah, I would take basically anything. The AI generator did much better than I could do, so I was happy happy with these, happy to show them at least for the purpose of, you know, giving everybody an idea again of who these people are. Here's the Vala's commander, Sergeant Major Ty Ravin. Didn't hear from him or his other subordinate, Master Sergeant Maloon. There didn't hear from either of them this episode. But and we also heard that little, there's been a couple now, I think the last few episodes, some back and forth between a private and his commander on the world of Soar, in fact. And that would be Private Boss, who was, I maybe named the first time today. Sergeant Banta has not been named yet, but that is it doesn't really matter. That's the guy who keeps chiming in during the private's private thoughts and telling him to focus himself. And then finally, we've met Fodor Glass now. Met him at the end of last episode. We actually, again, you saw his picture go up there a few times. Now he's the only other one I was able to add in during the stream there. I also met Fodor Blem, one of the other Fodors of the Odor. Decent picture of him there, I would say, from the AI generator. And also then we met, and this one isn't great, but I mean, it's really hard sometimes. It's really hard. This one's not too bad though. It's all right. I'd probably do a lot of different things with the what you would call the habit there, the religious habit. Probably both of them, but this one, I guess, I mean, it's not too bad. I'm not really that hung up on it, but it probably would just be like a much more plain looking thing than this. Yeah, anyway, there's the Solder Lawrence, I believe we met, right? She was the one that, one more of them down there. She was the one that, yeah, came in with the food for all the guests that she was not expecting. And that is everybody we've met so far. How many people is that now that we, well, not just named people. There are a few other named people in the story so far, but the ones I guess that I felt were at least worthy of making an image of for your sake, for my own sake, honestly, as well. 16 so far that we got here. Not bad, not bad. Yeah, so like I said, we're just going to keep on going. Wednesday, Saturday mornings, both of those, 9 a.m. Eastern, we'll go through the 10, and then we'll continue going through 11 through 30 once those are being posted. As they're being posted, it'll be great. Maybe nobody's watching now, but you know, hopefully eventually somebody, maybe not even these live ones, but we'll get some we will get some people here. That's good. I'm also trying to get through this so I can start doing some probably like short story. It's going to be something that's serial like, sort of like this Beyond Lumina, but it's going to be probably more, I don't know, like more loosely connected, but we're still probably going to shoot for, you know, obviously having like some storyline driven things happening. So it's not, you know, there's some character development, there's some story arcs, if you will, for Wildlands, which is one of the game universes, if you will, here on Nerds Templar. That, in fact, I may even have a bit of other creators helping me create the Wildlands stories and the Wildlands universe as we go through. So you don't have to just hear from my own my own perspective all the time, which was kind of the goal here on Nerds Templar, and it'll be more and more as we go. The perspective is not going to be anyone's perspective goes, obviously, because that's not how the world works. Not how anywhere works. This is a place for wholesome, good content. So, yeah, we're not looking for any crazy nonsense. But other creators along with me, yes. And so Wildlands, we're probably going to get hopefully some nice short stories, which will probably be around the same episode length as these are. Again, probably, what is that, about 25 minutes again to get through the whole thing. Again, at that point, probably gonna not have to worry so much about just having me doing all the voicing of everything. And this one's also going to be probably rated. The way my ratings work, I usually 10 is usually like in that age range. 10's where the number I use, so I would probably say 10 plus. Like, I wouldn't say 8, although again 9 would probably be fine. 8 would probably even be fine, you know. But again, maybe just for the sake of complexity, just the same as Beyond Lumina is 13 plus for the sake of complexity, and then a little bit because it's like it's very complex, I would say, and then also, you know, a little bit because of like violence, quote unquote, whatever, which is in basically anything. Lord of the Rings, Star Wars is what I always use as examples. All Marvel stuff. Wildlands, though, is going to be more a much more simple story, more geared toward, like, maybe I would even say like a 7 to 10 range, and that's because that's where we're hoping that the games, that's what the games are sort of geared toward, is, except for the Wildlands TCG, which is going to be geared toward at first, you know, obviously it's going to have like that entry level. We're hoping like that entry level, even maybe 6 to 7 years old, to be able to get into Wildlands TCG, and then but still be able to then continue onward and make it a fun game that even, you know, anybody would want to play. But that's with any TCG. As TCGs grow, they do just tend to become more complex as more mechanics are added into it, as the creators of the game feel it is necessary to do so. Just like Pokemon does, just like Magic has done for more years than anyone else, just like Yu-Gi-Oh's done. That it's everything. So it's what you do. We're gonna attempt to not have to do that too much, and so, you know, I have tons of cards already like made. Not only the what the cards do and all that, you know, like the lists and everything, deck card lists, set lists, even, if you will, but then also physically created some cards to use and tested them out, getting through different versions, you know, fixing up myself the cards. So eventually, once we get other people, especially other good TCG players, to help us to really set all the basic mechanics for it. Not really the basic mechanics, I guess, just more so make sure all the cards that are going to be coming out are working properly. I can only, again, by myself do so much. It always helps, even if you're like a professional TCG gamer, which most creators of them are not. And it's usually a team, of course, that's doing this. You want those pro players coming in and trying to destroy the set, basically. Break the game. That's with any game. You want the pros to come in and try to break the game. So once we get to that point, and it's great, I will mention here in closing, I thought it was interesting. Pokemon TCG related. I mentioned we pulled some. We pulled in our prize packs at the comic shop one of the Holo Ancient Energy booster capsules. There was a guy we met there the last few times, a guy named Chris, good guy, who was looking for that specifically before we were opening the packs. So I actually pulled. It was literally the last card I pulled from my prize packs there. So we traded that, and I took his TM Evolution Holo because I think I might actually use that in my deck. And then probably right after that, because I think it was this week, just a couple days, and maybe it was earlier. Maybe it was earlier last week. That my Holo Double Turbo Energy sold. I didn't realize they made a new one. There's now a Cosmos Holo version of it, and I think that just came out maybe in the new prize packs. So the guy that bought just this Double Turbo Energy from me, which I think I just had listed as the regular version's Holo version, so probably no Cosmos Holo behind there, maybe. I messaged him and just to let him know that. And also on the package, I saw that he was, well, on his shipping thing, I saw that he lived quite close to where I do. And so on my personalized little thing on there, I said, you know, thanks for your purchase. And then in parentheses, I said neighbor, because again, he would also, if he didn't, then probably look back and notice that yeah, it was shipped from a town near him as well. So then he actually he replied to the message, and then he actually sent me another message, and it was something like, but it's crazy because His name was Chris, and it was in fact the Chris from the comic shop that bought that card from me just down the road. It was literally the person that I just hung out with the past couple weeks at the comic shop, named Chris. So it's like, what? Okay, well that's hilarious. So yeah, small world. But what are the chances that that the guy we just met just was the guy nearby that bought our card? But not only that, of all the cards he bought, it was from him. It was a guy, me, that lives near him. So that was just crazy. Anyway, that is all I have for you guys now. Thanks for chilling with me, if you did so. If not, then what's up with that? You wouldn't know I said anything. I will catch you in the next one. Again, as always, we have coming up tomorrow. Well, actually tonight, if there's anybody here tonight in your TCG Live player, we will be doing TCG Live tonight around 6:30 p.m. And then, sorry, moving some things around here. And then we will be doing tomorrow morning on Thursday. I'm going to be unlisting all of those decks I have for Lorcana, and then we're going to be busting all those open tomorrow on stream. And I'm going to be opening all the. I think there's 6. Maybe we'll just do 4, and then maybe I have 2. I have 3 Ursula's Return actually. Maybe I'll do 4 decks. I'll open those up, open those 4 packs, and then 2 Ursula's Return. Maybe that'll give us 6. Not too bad. I'm going to then keep one of basically that'll keep one. Let me hold back one of each of the Into the Inklands decks. I don't know, just because. We'll see what happens. And then I'll end up breaking apart those decks, selling those, opening the packs. That'll be our Thursday Lorcana tomorrow Lorcana stream. Friday evening's Pokemon stream is actually going to be Friday morning at some point. It's actually probably not going to be 9 a.m., but like probably closer to maybe 11, because we're going to have to, unless before then, our Pokemon Center order comes in. It in fact is on its way out of Grove City, Ohio, which is where it normally gets stuck. It shipped out of there. Man, now I'm not sure if it was yesterday or this morning. I think it was yesterday around noon. So it left there. That's great. Hopefully it will actually. It still says it's going to be here Monday, which would be terrible. Hopefully it won't, and it'll just be here Thursday. If it's here Thursday, 9 a.m. probably for the stream. If not, 11 a.m. probably for the stream. And then we have, what's that? Friday, Saturday, we have another Beyond Lumina. So yeah, that's the lineup, and I will see you. Oh yeah, and then of course the next week, Monday, we'll be doing our actual 9 a.m. Eastern TCG live stream, scheduled one. And then back Tuesday again for more Pokemon collection stream in the morning. And it might again just have to end up being more tournament stuff, because we have 2 more tournaments at a different location now that I might have to go to. So we'll see what happens. Until then, I'm Randy. This is Nerds Templar. Peace out.